I am the founder and executive director of We Teach Think, and I had a profound conversion to Christ in 2012. Prior to that, I was very much a pro-choice person. I did not work for Planned Parenthood, but there was a period of years when I did help them raise money when I lived in Montana. Well, after my conversion to Christianity, Catholicism specifically, pro-choice and giving your life to Jesus don't really go together very well, do they? So I just moved to the middle. I thought I'm going to focus on evangelization because that's what God has asked me to do, and that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Well, God sometimes has different plans for you. And about 3 years into working for Spirit Catholic Radio in Nebraska, one of my volunteers brought me the 40 Days for Life book to read. And she said, Angela, I'm bringing you a book to read. It's 40 Days for Life. And we want everybody to read it and then sign your name in the back and then pass it along to 5 other people to have them read it as well. And I said, great, thanks, Mary. I love reading. And my brain was saying, I totally don't want to read that book. Right? Because I'm ignoring that part of my past. I don't want to talk about the abortion issue at all. But Mary was going to come back and ask me, Angela, did you read that book? And I'm going to have to say, yes, I did. So I read the book. Well, chapter 33 is entitled, Take It Personal. And it should have been titled, Take It Personal, Angela. Because the first sentence in that book in that chapter says, the weather in Helena, Montana in the spring is cold. As soon as I heard that or read that line, I got chills on my spine. I thought, oh no. It's a story about a grandmother fighting for the life of her grandchild because her granddaughter was scheduled for an abortion in that facility. I knew what that facility looked like. My money had helped to pay for it. And I had an absolute meltdown. I was crying so hard in my office, thinking, what have I done? Who have I led away from Christ with my poor example? And what has my money paid for? And what do I do now? Right? Because I'm on the radio trying to bring people to Christ. And now what's going to happen now that I've had this epiphany? So I spent about 3 months praying about it, and ultimately ended up writing the business plan for We Teach Think. Now, I worked most of my life for UPS as a sales and marketing director. So I knew that what I needed to do first was to figure out how to talk to the culture. For some reason, my slides keep going back. Am I not doing something right? We want to talk about your brain right now. So the first thing I needed to do was to understand how people think, correct? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about your brain right now. You've got two sections that say, system 1 is a learned behavior that system 2 teaches to system 1, right? So for example, when you are a child and learning to walk, walking is a system 2 behavior because you're not born learning to walk. So you're paying attention to every single step that you take. And if you yell out a toddler's name when they're learning to walk and they look at you, likely they'll fall over, right? But after a while, it becomes a learned behavior. So you're able to walk, talk, eat a sandwich, do all kinds of things because system 1 now has taken over that activity from system 2. Now, why is that important? Because as we learn things through advertising and through different repeated exposure to that information, it becomes a built-in system 1 behavior. Now, one of the things that, for some reason my slides are not coming in order, but I'm not sure what's happening there. But anyway, let's talk about, I started doing some research on the abortion industry in 2017. So what I found was that if you asked the pro-life group, the $1 million question is what I call it. And the $1 million question is, if I ask you, when does human life begin? You will say, conception. But if you ask the group of pro-choice people, when does human life begin? They will say after the child is born or when it is outside of the mother and able to sustain life on its own. However, if you ask what we call the middle-minded, when does human life begin? They will say at 8 weeks, 12 weeks, feels pain, has a heartbeat. Right? They've been systematically confused on when human life is a human life purposely so that they can get a group of people to go along with something they wouldn't go do themselves, right? That group of people says things like, I don't believe in abortion personally, but who am I to tell somebody else what they can and cannot do, right? Well, when I started doing the research to find out about that particular group, here is what I found. In 2004, 49% of the population said that they were pro-choice. 44% said that they were pro-life. Just what side of the fence do you fall on, right? Now, in 2017, 49% said pro-choice, and 46% said pro-life. Now that is really statistically no change. It's basically 50-50, right? This is called crippling polarization. It's when two sides of a topic have just dug their heels in and are, neither one's moving. But I knew that there were people like me that also would say, well, I don't believe in it myself, but, right? And I needed to know, what did that number actually look like? So when we go and take a look at the market share in 2018, when they asked the question, would you like to see abortion laws in this country made more strict, less strict, or remain as they are? Here's how it broke down. 22% of the population wanted stricter laws. That's you guys. That's the pro-life group out there, the ones praying, going to stuff, so forth. 19% wanted less strict laws, abortion on demand at any time. But 59% of the population actually answered no opinion, remain the same, or they're just satisfied. It's legal, it must be okay, right? That's the status quo. But when I saw that 59% of the population falls into what we call middle-minded or the fence-sitting community, as a marketer or a salesperson, if you told any CEO in the United States that 59% of the US population is a potential customer, you would see CEOs doing cartwheels across the stage, right? Because that means there's a lot of money to be made. But so I knew once I saw that 59% were basically undecided or didn't want to deal with the topic, I knew that we had a potential customer base that we could market to. So once again, we go back to the $1 million question. When does life begin? With those people, they have been so confused over when human life begins, they don't know the answer. So I'm going to ask you a question right now. On what day of your life did you learn the difference between Coca-Cola and Pepsi? You didn't have a class in school that taught you your parents don't have the Coke and Pepsi talk. No. You have seen this image billions and billions of times. You don't remember when you learned the difference between Coca-Cola and Pepsi. That's the power of advertising, right? So I'm going to do a little experiment right now. If I could have all of the Coca-Cola people in the room raise your hand. Who's a Coke person? Wow, a lot of Coke people. How about Pepsi? Who's a Pepsi person? All these, sorry Pepsi, you're outnumbered. But let's talk about this a little bit. So in the 1970s, Coca-Cola had some advertising, and I am not a singer. I should have had Monumental be up here with me during this part. But I want you all to join in. It goes like this. I'd like to buy the world a home, furnish it with love, with apple trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. Coke is the real thing, right? Okay. Now, did you say that you were a Pepsi person? I'm going to pick on you a little. Okay, well, with the Coke advertising, did you realize that Coca-Cola wants to furnish the world with love and buy everyone a home? So they're basically like a philanthropist if you drink Coke. So if you're a Pepsi person, you must be a hater. And did you notice that Coke is the real thing? So if that's the case, Pepsi must be fake, right? Do you agree with that? Why not? What's wrong with you? Well, okay, I'm going to present the facts to you again one more time. Coke is the real thing. Coke people give people a smile, and they're philanthropists. So for the rest of your life, since I've now explained this to you, I would like you to only drink Coke and never drink Pepsi again. Agreed? Well, I'm just going to have to give her the hand because obviously you can't talk to her. Okay, this is what we sound like when we are talking pro-life to people who are in the middle. When we try to tell them facts about why they're wrong, this is what we get. Right? The hand. They don't want to be part of any of that group because they have biases that they've learned, but they don't remember where they learned it. They don't know. So the goal of any marketing, if we want to change the culture, is that we've got to find a different way to talk to people. Now, I want to say thank you for playing along with me here. And I really don't hate Pepsi people. So here's a free t-shirt and a Pepsi. So let's talk about confirmation bias a little bit. Confirmation bias happens when you have a belief that you've learned, and you may not know where you learned it, but when facts are presented to you that negate what you believe, you ignore them. Or you cherry pick only the facts that support what you already believe, and you leave behind the others. So when we tell somebody who is in that middle-minded group that they're wrong, that life begins at day one, and what's wrong with them for not understanding the science, and we use tone, they stop listening. They don't want to be part of the pro-life group or the other group. And honestly, if you ring their phone the next time, they're going to be, oh, it's Angela calling again. I'm going to block that number. I just can't talk to her anymore, right? So what we want to do is to take something that is currently socially acceptable and move it to socially unacceptable, is what we want to accomplish with marketing. We need to define the market and know what our customers are actually thinking. How does your customer think, and where are they on the spectrum? Now remember, I said 59% of the population cannot agree collectively on when life begins. So that's where we have to start. So, Business 101, the goal of any marketing plan is to grow market share. So our current customer base right now is at 22%. The competitor, which are the pro-choice people, are at 19%. Our goal is to move the middle-minded to 71% of the US population. Once we get to that, it will be socially unacceptable to end the life of a preborn human intentionally. It won't matter who is in our White House. People will stop choosing this as an option. I'll give you a couple of examples. My grandkids were looking at a picture of me holding their mother on my lap in the front seat of a car. Remember that? Remember the mom seatbelt? Like, you're just going to swing out the arm and that's going to work, right? Okay, well, the grandkids see it and they're like, Grandma, what were you doing? What are you thinking? Why did you have our mom on your lap in the car? You're a terrible mother. We're lucky to be here, And I'm like, well, okay, car seats weren't invented, number one, and I didn't know any better. But we had a comprehensive marketing campaign that went throughout the United States that taught us children need a safer way to ride in the car. We've done this with Smokey the Bear and forest fires. We've done this with the Keep America Beautiful campaign. It's not even okay to pick up trash anymore. You now have to sort it. Right? Yes. So when you get the population to a high enough number, the culture changes. Our laws change when the culture changes. And that's what we need to do. Now I'm going to talk about something. If anybody can say post hoc, ergo, propter hoc 3 times really fast, free t-shirt. What does that mean? It means because of, therefore. Let me give you an example. Because the rooster crows every morning and the sun rises, therefore the rooster crowing causes the sun to rise. This is known as the post hoc fallacy. 2 things that seem to go together but really do not have anything to do with each other. This is how the pro-abortion side has marketed this as a healthcare issue, right? Okay, so women go to doctors for health care. Doctors provide health care. Therefore, this abortion must be health care. Well, let me reframe this. Do women go to doctors for cosmetic surgery? Well, if that's the case, and doctors provide cosmetic surgery, if we make cosmetic surgery or facelifts illegal, will women not have access to health care? No. Abortion is not health care. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite of health care. But because they branded it, this is a post hoc fallacy. But they've got it in the brains of that middle-minded group when they say, oh, these poor women aren't going to have access to health care. What they really mean is they won't have access to an abortion. They will have access to health care. We have the best health care system in the entire world. But people have been fooled with an illusion. So in any marketing, your goal is to gain agreement from your potential customer. Yes, I want to buy what you're selling, either an ideology or a physical product. So I'm going to show a couple of videos now. Patrick, we can't hear the video. There's no sound. We'll try it again. Yikes! Well, I'm going to tell you what the video says, okay? And it's going to run behind me. I'll go back to this slide. When we're talking to people on the Let's Talk page of the Human from Day One website, there's a couple of scenarios that we can go through. Okay, so if something is alive, it must be growing. Is that correct? Do you agree with that? Yes. And if something is growing, it must be taking in some kind of nutrition. Yes? Agreed? Yes. Well, if something is growing and taking in nutrition, and that something happens to be a human egg that was put together with a human sperm, the only thing that can be is a human person that is alive. Right? Well, the next video then goes on to say that we've already agreed that if something is alive, it's taking in nutrition and growing. Well, let's take that one step further. If I remove something from an area that is conducive to its needs, could we agree that I aided in the death of that something? For example, if I pull a dandelion out of my yard and put it on my driveway, could we agree that I aided in the death of that dandelion? Yes. I removed it from an area that's conducive to its needs. What if I sprayed the dandelion with a pesticide, virtually not allowing it to take in nutrition? Could we also agree that I aided in the death of that dandelion? Yes. How about if I hired a professional lawn service to come and remove the dandelion for me? Could we still agree that I had aided in the death of that dandelion? Yes, I just hired a professional to do it for me. So in all of those scenarios, that's how abortion occurs in all those scenarios. But our goal is to take the heat out of a hot topic. So if you go to humanfromdayone.com, they're 30-second videos. They're on the Let's Talk page. And the blessing of it is show it to people during dandelion season because they can't unsee it. Every time they pull a dandelion out of their yard, they're going to be saying, yep, aiding in your death. Sorry, you got to go. Right? Because it's that familiarity effect that we're looking for. Okay, so the goal of all advertising is to get into the personal space of your individual. Personal space is home, car, and the phone, right? Because we don't go anywhere without it. Now, people are more receptive to information that they may not necessarily agree to if they're in their own personal space. This is why Christian radio works so well with evangelization. Because when somebody's in their kitchen listening and they hear something they don't agree with, they don't have to put together a dissertation to tell the other person why they're right. They start to argue up here. And remember what the name of our company is? We teach what? Think. Yes, that's what we want to do. So we want to get the advertising in the personal space of the individual. Now, we've designed 3 advertising campaigns that we want to roll out in every city in the United States within the next 5 years. This is the first billboard of Kit 1. Now, there's 3 kits, Kit 1, 2, 3. We don't start with Kit 3 and go to 2 and then 1. Remember, you want to start with where your customer is. And right now, they cannot agree that we're human from day one. And that's what we want to start hearing people say. So this particular slide says, this is you on day 1 of your life. Not a human on day 1 of their life. Because then people say, oh, I'm not of childbearing age. You know, this doesn't apply to me. Or I'm ignoring this topic. This is settled law. It doesn't matter what gender you are, what race you are, or where you were born in the world. This is what you look like on day 1 of your life. And my goal is to have this image seen by people so many times that when you say, when does human life begin? They say what? Day 1. And they don't remember where they learned it. If we can get this image seen as many times as that Coca-Cola can has been seen, we win, right? Patrick's back, I think, so I'm really praying that this commercial is going to run. All right? So commercial 1 looks like this.
Could we agree that
video.
if a human egg and a human...
We want commercial 1.
I am human, and I was created.
Soy humano y fui creado.
I am human, and I was created.
I am human. I was created.
I am human and I was created. I am human and I was created.
We believe these truths to be self-evident, that all humans are created equal.
So you see a couple of things that happen in that commercial. Number 1, all the characters, we start with that older character who's one of my dear friends and my age, so she's quite young. But we go backwards. And another thing that your brain loves is repeating patterns. So all of the characters say, I am human, I was created. I am human created, human created, human created. When it gets to character 56, and the character's voiceover says, I am human and I was created, the viewer's brain unconsciously says, yep, human and created, whether they realize it or not. Now, the tagline at the end of that says, we believe these truths to be self-evident. Now, what is that? Amen. That is ground into us. We know that in our soul as American citizens, that we believe these truths to be self-evident, that all humans are created equal. Now, you can disagree with it if you want, but you might have trouble depending on where you're at, because it's not socially acceptable to disagree with that. Now, is that tagline a women's rights issue? No, what is it? Human rights issue. That's what it is. So once we've established within a community that we are human from day one, then we move on to Kit 2, which Kit 2 is building value in the preborn state. Right now, born people have a higher value than preborn individuals. It's just the way it is right now. We need to change that. And we don't protect what we don't value. So, Billboard 2 looks like this. Both of these weigh the same. Which one has a greater value? It doesn't say you're a bad person if you've had an abortion, paid for one, or drove somebody there. It's asking you personally to make that decision here. Which has more value to you? Once it's here, it goes here and solidifies here. Right? Commercial that goes with this one looks like this.
I was unplanned, but I am human and I have value.
I was not planned, but I am a human and I have value.
I was not planned, but I am still human and I have value. I was not planned, but I am human and I have value. I was not planned, but I am human and I have value.
I have a dream that one day all humans will be valued equal.
Aren't those kids cute? And the reason why I say all of those kids are cute because they're all my grandchildren. Yes. You know why I use my grandchildren in that commercial? Because I wanted to be able to tell them that all humans are planned by God. Not necessarily your human parents, but all humans are planned by God. And it's playing in the city where they live, so their friends are seeing it. So I wanted to be able to prepare them to, for the question, hey, I saw you weren't playing on TV. They need to be able to answer that question, So once we build the value, then we can move to protecting. When you try to move to protection too quickly, before you've built enough value in the minds of your target market, you won't win. So Billboard 3 looks like this. Which of these species is not protected? Right? Now, I purposely use the snow leopard because for about the past 4 or 5 years, there's an animal rights group using the snow leopard. It's a sad, sad commercial, a snow leopard dragging its paw with a trap on there, which is sad. But they already have that in their brain that this is an issue that needs paid attention to. But if you're driving in the car with a 6-year-old and they say, Grammy, what does that billboard mean? And you say, well, if you hurt the snow leopard or kill it or something, well, you can go to jail or you're going to have to pay a fine or something like that. And then you pause and they say, well, what about the baby? Well, that's kind of a difficult conversation. Maybe you should just ask your mom tonight, right? It's hard to explain this to a child if you're in the middle. And that's what we want, because kids automatically start asking questions. When I show the diamond and the baby together, if it's a group of kids, the kids will say, well, the baby does, duh. See, they know it intrinsically. It's the grown-ups that have been fed biased information for years and years and years that are confused, not children. Now, the commercial that goes with this one looks like this.
Why do we protect whales? Why are snow leopards protected? Why is it important for us to protect sea turtles? Why do we protect bald eagle eggs? Why don't we protect all humans?
When the next generation asks you why, how will you explain liberty and justice for all?
Because when your kids ask you, Grandma, what were you thinking? How are you going to explain your position? And honestly, when I had my meltdown in that office that day, what I was thinking was, my grandkids only know Catholic grandma. They don't know pro-choice grandma. They've never known me not to be teaching them about Christ. How am I going to explain to them when my name shows up on this other list? Right? So, and the last tagline on this says what? Liberty and justice for all. Once again, a human rights message, correct? Okay, what are you to do now? Now, what I want you to do is plant the seeds. Plant the seeds. When Mary brought me that book, she didn't wake up in the morning, grab the book, and say, you know what, I'm going to take this book into Angela today and just ruin her day, right? She's going to be crying and sobbing. She's not even going to be able to finish the day. She's going to have to go home from work. She didn't know that. She didn't know, oh, yes, I'll give Angela this book, and she'll quit her job, withdraw her retirement funding, and start a marketing campaign nationwide in the most controversial topic that there is in our world today. Right? But somebody else did know. God knew. God told Mary to bring that book to me. And he did the watering. She planted the seed, he did the watering. So what I'm asking you today is there is a table full of materials back there. This is We Teach Think magazine. It teaches the psychology of marketing and how the pro-abortion industry has used marketing to buffalo the minds of the middle-minded. It gives you talking points and ways to talk to people about a very difficult topic. Now, there's 250 people here today. I brought 500 magazines. So what I'm asking you to do is take one for yourself and take one to another person. We instantly double the impact of this conference by talking to one person. I'm not asking you to quit your job and start working in the pro-life industry all day, but I am talking to you and asking you, you have to be not afraid. Be not afraid to go out and talk about this topic, to give people truth and information. That's what God has asked us to do. So, once again, I flew here. There is a lot of heavy materials on that table. I do not want to take any of them home. We are a 501c3 organization. We do accept donations. If you can't afford a donation, just take the materials. It doesn't work if it's just in my garage. Amen? Okay. With that, if you would like more information to find out how to have this advertising running in your city, we have 3 billboards up in Rapid City right now, but nowhere else in South Dakota. So with that, God bless you, God bless this conference, and God bless your conversations.